Woohoo! Woohoo! Wow, wow, wow. Welcome back, snow lovers, to a truly phenomenal week of snowfall in the Alps. We've seen not one but two huge Atlantic storms barrel into the Alps from the northwest, bringing in excess of a metre of snow each to many parts of the French and Swiss Alps. And it's not just been the French and Swiss Alps, virtually everybody has seen some significant snowfall off the back of both of these storms. And in between these two storms, we saw yet another retour d'est, a storm blowing up from the south, bringing even more significant snowfall to the southern Alps, and particularly the Italian Alps. Prato Nervoso yet again saw 50 to 60 centimetres of lying snow down to resort level over the weekend. So all in all, it's been a pretty crazy 7 days. The first storm, which began last Tuesday and ran right through until Friday, brought the biggest precipitation totals, but it also brought higher temperatures. Freezing levels are often at or around 1800 metres, and for a while, certainly in the west, they were over 2000 metres. So that did mean that the snow lower down was very sticky, very heavy, and down at many resort levels it was raining often as well, so it was pretty miserable in the week low down. But high up, the snowfall totals were absolutely phenomenal. We widely saw 80 centimetres to a metre of snow around 1800 metres. Above 2200 metres we saw well over a metre of snow. Above 3000 metres some places saw in excess of 2 metres of snow. The biggest snowfall totals were in the Mont Blanc Massif and in parts of the Swiss Valais, but virtually all of the French and Swiss Alps saw significant snowfall. And even on the Italian side of the Massifs there was still a decent amount of snowfall as well. But unfortunately for most of us, we weren't really able to enjoy it. Low down it was too warm, the snow was really sticky, really heavy, not particularly nice to ski at all. Up high it was far too windy, and as such many upper lifts were closed, and indeed some ski areas were closed completely. On Thursday and Friday we saw an incredibly rare department-wide avalanche risk category 5 out of 5 rating. While this is not unprecedented, we've not seen this in many years. We occasionally see individual resorts under a category 5 avalanche warning, but to have the avalanche warning blanket across virtually entire departments, most if not all of Savoie and Haute-Savoie in France, as well as many areas in the Swiss Valais, were completely shut. Resorts such as the Plan and Les Arcs were closed, most of the Chamonix Valley was closed, many of the higher resorts in Switzerland were closed, and the avalanche risk was just exceptional. We have seen huge avalanches coming down absolutely everywhere, all the way down to valley level often. Both big powder cloud avalanches and wet slough avalanches reaching their way all the way down to valley floor in many cases. Naturally, up on the mountain, all resorts have been carrying out extensive avalanche control, and this has led to absolutely huge avalanches in the ski areas, some of which has damaged infrastructure and completely buried lifts and pistes. And after a brief respite, barely 2 days later, the next big storm barreled into the northwest Alps. From Sunday night through until Tuesday this week, we've seen yet another huge North Atlantic depression bringing vast amounts of snow to the French and Swiss Alps yet again. And crucially, this time around it was colder. Freezing levels were typically around about 1500 metres, at times they fell well below 1000 metres, and we've seen some snow even down to the lowest of valleys. This has meant that skiing has been much more enjoyable for the limited areas that were able to open under these conditions. Because yet again, avalanche risk was extreme in many places. For much of Savoie and Haute-Savoie in France, it remained at 4 out of 5, although a few localised areas will have seen it pushed up to 5 out of 5. But again, over in Switzerland, in many parts of the Valais, it was back up at 5 out of 5 again. And we've seen more huge natural and man-made avalanches occurring. A train derailed in Switzerland, causing a number of minor injuries due to colliding with an avalanche. Another train on this route up to Zermatt was engulfed in a powder cloud avalanche, and we saw an absolutely huge powder cloud avalanche coming down off the Mont Blanc Massif into Val Veni in the Courmayeur ski area and engulfing the Zerotta ski lifts. Now, these are AI, but I can assure you this is genuine. I've seen this from many different camera angles, from being posted by many different people. This is absolutely 100% real. And all this excitement has coincided with the busiest week of the year for many parts of the Alps. In France, it's been week 2 of School Zone A and week 1 of School Zone B half-term holidays. In Italy, the start of the week was the Carnival holiday, so many, if not most, schools are off earlier in the week. Switzerland, many cantons have their half-term holidays this week. In Austria, it was their 3rd week of their half-term holidays. And then, of course, you have all the tourists coming down from outside of the region. It's been the main half-term holiday week for many schools in the UK this week, as well as most, if not all, of Germany, and it would appear all of the Netherlands as well, so the resorts have been absolutely rammed this week. So many resorts will have been at capacity already, but has been further exacerbated by the very limited amount of skiing that's been available so far. As I've already said, many resorts have even been partially or fully closed, which means that those which have been able to offer some skiing have been just mobbed. It's been absolutely insane. This has been the busiest I've ever seen it in the Alps in the 5 or 6 years that I've lived here. I know that many other resorts have been much worse than my local resorts. In La Zouche, for example, in the Chamonix Valley, which has been the only ski area in the Chamonix Valley which has been able to offer full skiing, they were queuing round the block in both directions just to get up the gondola around mid-morning earlier in the week, and the traffic to get to the car park was blocked up all the way to the motorway. People were queuing for hours just to not even be able to get to the car park. And in many of the bigger resorts, like the Teens and the Three Valleys, the queues to get up the lifts which were able to run were hundreds of people deep, more than an hour before lifts were due to open on some days. It's at this time of year that us locals would usually be avoiding resort skiing like the plague, but given the relatively poor season that many of us have had so far this year, we really can't turn down the opportunity to be skiing powder when we've got it. So again, that has further exacerbated the problem. It's not just the tourists who are rushing to get up the mountain, it's also us powder-starved locals as well. So all in all, it's been chaos. On the face of it, it may seem like great news that the Alps have got fantastic snow for the main half-term holiday week of the year, but in reality, it's actually caused a huge problem because there's so many people trying to get access to such little skiing available that it's just been basically unmanageable. It's been a number of years since we've seen snow such as this during the main February half-term, and on balance, in honesty, it would have been much better if we didn't have any snow this year and we'd had warm, sunny weather that we've often had during the February holidays. Unfortunately, it was all but guaranteed that given the conditions we have with the snowpack this year, combined with the huge numbers of tourists and the huge amount of snow that we've seen this week, that we have seen many avalanche deaths. I've lost count of how many avalanche fatalities we've had this season, but it is totally unacceptable. Every single one of these fatalities has been 100% avoidable. No avalanche is ever a guarantee. In every single one, somebody is at fault. In Xavier Delarue's recent Instagram post, he stated that there's been, across the Alps, around 76 skiing-related fatalities so far this season, and we're not even halfway through the season. That was before this latest storm came through, so you can add at least another 10 or more to that number. Now, not all of these are avalanche-related deaths. Some of them have been people crashing into rocks, some of them have probably been speed fly incidents as well, but even so, that is a huge number and a totally unacceptable number. And the problem is, many of the avalanche-related deaths have been people skiing with ski instructors. It seems that in many regions, ski instructors have been acting as guides. They are not mountain guides, they are just ski instructors. Whether or not they're legally able to take people into the off-piste, into the backcountry, they really shouldn't be doing this. We clearly have a major problem in the industry right now where ski instructors are taking people well beyond their remit, and we've seen the fatal consequences of this time and time again this season. People believe, quite rightly, that if they're paying somebody to take them out into the backcountry, into the off-piste, they're paying that person to look after them and to keep them safe. And if you're hiring a mountain guide, that is absolutely exactly what they're going to be doing. But if you're hiring a ski instructor, sure, these guys are very experienced skiers and they've got often decades of experience of teaching people, but they are not mountain guides. They haven't had the same kind of training, haven't done the same kind of assessments that mountain guides have to go through to take people out into the backcountry. This is some footage from one of the fatal avalanches which occurred in Val d'Isère this week. And just one look at that face tells you that you should not be going anywhere near that on the category 4 out of 5 avalanche day, and especially not when the previous day was category 5 out of 5. You should be avoiding that like the plague. And yet, you can see there are hundreds and hundreds of tracks on that face already. There are at least 3 fatalities in this avalanche, one of which was the person who triggered the avalanche, 2 of which were clients with a ski instructor acting like a guide. And there's just absolutely no way that anybody with experience should have been skiing in that region, let alone somebody taking other people into that face. There are just so many red flags on that image. While it's hard to judge just how steep a face is from a photo, that is very definitely somewhere within that sweet spot between 30 and 45 degrees. It also has steep, craggy cliffs above the face, meaning something from above you could very easily trigger and release an avalanche. There are many hazards on the face itself, such as rocky outcrops, cliffs, which if you get carried over, again, that could cause fatal injuries. And then there's a huge terrain trap at the bottom of the face, which you can quite clearly see the avalanche piles into and fills up this ravine. So nobody should be going anywhere near that on that day, or indeed any other day where the avalanche risk is that high. and yet, as I've already said, there are clearly hundreds of tracks on that face. And that's just one example, but you could be picking out red flag after red flag after red flag on every single other example where there's been fatal avalanches for the entirety of this season, but especially during this week. There are at least 3 deaths in Courmayeur on, again, a category 4 out of 5 avalanche day, the day after it had been category 5 in much of the Mont Blanc region, and people were skiing down one of the well-known off-piste itineraries which end up in avalanche runnels in narrow couloirs where if there's any kind of slide at all, everything gets funneled into those couloirs, and yet people were skiing there. It's just insane. And every time this happens, the media and the public at wide portray this as a tragedy. It's not a tragedy. Sure, it's incredibly sad for those who know the victims, but these are not tragedies, they're travesties. People should never have been putting themselves in that position in the first place. In my videos, you will often see me skiing through the powder, or snowboarding through the powder, on very, very high risk avalanche days. But I've got many, many years of experience. I know what I'm doing, I know where I'm going, I know where it's completely safe to do so. But if you don't have that level of experience, and you're not familiar with the resort that you're skiing in, then don't copy me basically. Do as I say, not as I do. Now this is quite a difficult thing to talk about because I don't want to hide from you the fact that I am going out there having fun, but equally I want to educate you and tell you what not to be doing. And there is no substitute for experience. You can't learn these things through a video or through reading a book. It takes years, decades of experience, and I have that. Most people who are coming out for a holiday once or twice a year can never get that kind of experience. So if in any doubt at all, if the avalanche risk is 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5, just stay well clear of any kind of off-piste. Even if you see people doing it, people like me heading off to somewhere, don't follow them because 1, they might not be people like me, they might have no idea what they're doing either, but 2, even if they do know what they're doing, it doesn't mean that it's safe for you to follow them. I know this may come across as arrogance, but I can assure you it's really not. I'm trying to be brutally honest while saving lives. That's the end of my ranting for this week, but unfortunately I'm sure this won't be the last time I've got to say these kind of things. But looking forward, we have another brief lull in the weather today, where temperatures are briefly also quite a bit warmer, before the next storm moves through tomorrow, Thursday, where many of the same areas which have already seen huge amounts of snowfall this week are going to get hit yet again, particularly the French Alps. Widely, areas expecting another 40 to 50 centimetres of snow at fairly modest elevations. And again, this will be accompanied by strong winds, very stormy weather, so we can expect the avalanche risk to go up again. And then, moving into the weekend, things finally look set to calm down. From Saturday and particularly Sunday onwards, the sun should be out, but unfortunately it's also getting very, very warm. Currently the freezing level is projected to be going up well above 3,000 metres for several days moving into next week. It could even go above 3,500 metres, which, considering in many areas it's been below 1,500 metres, if not below 1,000 metres, for much of the last week, this is going to come as a huge shock. Temperatures in the valleys, which have been just above freezing, could well go up into the mid-teens over the next few days. This brings its own dangers. In the long run, this warm spell of weather is good for stabilising the snowpack, but in the short term, there's going to be massive purges absolutely everywhere, particularly on south and west facing slopes. This vast quantities of fresh snow that we've got in the mountain now is just waiting to fall down as it heats up. And then throw into the mix the fact that we've got a lot of very, very frustrated skiers who've barely been able to get out of the house for the last week. Finally, we've got some blue skies, some sunny weather coming. People are going to be charging off in all directions as far away from lifts as possible, putting themselves in yet more danger. So, yet again, we're going to see more fatalities over the next week, unfortunately. I'm talking about this in a very blasé, matter-of-fact way now, but we should never have got to this situation. That is where we are this season. It's just a matter of fact that people are going to die each time you get big snowfall. And yeah, we should really not be here. At the moment, the warm weather looks set to last until at least Wednesday next week, and then we potentially have some more Atlantic storms blowing through. But of course that's a long way off now, it's too far away to say exactly what's going to happen and when. But certainly we're expecting 2, 3, 4 days of warm sunny weather at the start of next week. Some representative snowfall totals for you now, although some of these will become obsolete even by the time you're watching this video as it just keeps snowing, but it gives you a bit of a baseline at the very least. And starting once again in Prato Nervoso in the far southwest, and they still have an official upper base depth of 3 metres and a lower base depth of 2 metres. They received around 50 centimetres of fresh snow last Saturday, and they're expecting another 20 centimetres or so of snow tonight before it heats up rapidly moving into the weekend. Teens have an upper base of 231 centimetres, a lower base of 152 centimetres. They received around 95 centimetres of snow on Tuesday, and expecting another 20 to 30 centimetres of snow tonight and tomorrow. Bardonecchia in the Via Lattea have an upper base depth of 120 centimetres and a lower base of 40 centimetres. They received around 50 centimetres of snow on Tuesday and expect another 20 centimetres of snow tonight and tomorrow. One of my local resorts, Le Contamine-Montjoie, have an upper base depth of 320 centimetres, a lower base of 25 centimetres. That's all the way down in the village. They got much more snow than that at kind of the mid-base station where much of the skiing starts. They received 80 centimetres of snow on Tuesday and are expecting another 20 to 30 centimetres of snow tonight and tomorrow. In Crans-Montana in Switzerland, officially they have an upper base depth of 130 centimetres and a lower base of 40 centimetres, although that seems to be very outdated. I can confirm from a friend who is currently out there at the moment that in resort, in the town, they've got widely 1.7 metres of snow, in places over 2.2 metres of snow. And again, that's just down in resort at 1500 metres, so you can expect much more than that up on the mountain. There, they received around 90 centimetres of snow on Tuesday. They're expecting another 20 to 30 centimetres of snow again tonight. Andermatt officially have an upper base depth of 190 centimetres, a lower base of 92 centimetres. They received nearly 90 centimetres of snow on Tuesday and are expecting another 10 to 15 centimetres of snow tonight and tomorrow. La Tuile in Italy have an upper base depth of 350 centimetres, a lower base of 260 centimetres. They received nearly 80 centimetres of snow on Tuesday and expect another 20 to 30 tonight and tomorrow. Bormio, one of the host sites of the Winter Olympics, have an upper base depth of 65 centimetres, a lower base of 35 centimetres. They received around 15 centimetres of snow on Tuesday and are expecting another 15 centimetres or so of snow tonight and tomorrow. In Austria and Kaprun on the Kitzsteinhorn Glacier have an upper base of 120 centimetres and lower down in resort they've got a base of 70 centimetres. And in neighbouring Zalmsee they've got an upper base of 115 and a lower base of 30 centimetres. They both received around 15 to 20 centimetres of snow on Tuesday and are expecting another similar amount tomorrow, and then a further light dusting for into the weekend as well. And further east into Slovenia, who've been missing out on most of the fun so far unfortunately, Kranjska Gora have got an upper base of 40 centimetres and a lower base of 30 centimetres. And their last meaningful snowfall was way back on the 8th of February, where there's only around 4 or 5 centimetres, although they are expecting about another 10 centimetres of snow tomorrow. So that's some representative snowfall depths from across the Alps. Hopefully from this weekend onwards, things should slowly start to get quieter throughout much of the Alps, with the exception of France, where we've still got at least another 2 weeks of chaos, with the main Paris holidays are still yet to come. So while further east things will be quieting down again, here in the west it's still crazy for at least another 2 weeks. That should finally all be over on the 9th of March, and then we'll have our mountains back. But for everyone else, hopefully they get to enjoy a little bit more peace and quiet with some really good snow quality throughout the latter part of February. So if you are coming out here for some mid-season turns, then I hope you have a wonderful time, but of course make sure to stay really safe. The snowpack this season is really difficult basically everywhere, so if you are venturing to the off-piste, be sure that you know what you're doing and where you're going, and otherwise just don't. Play it safe. The conditions on the piste virtually everywhere are fantastic, so you can still have a great time in perfect safety without taking your life into your own hands. I hope you're continuing to enjoy the spectacle of the Winter Olympics this year, and you'll be hearing from me again very shortly. Woo!